All right, guys, I'm here with Gale Banks at Diesel Power Challenge. Gale, I had no idea you were showing up until I literally got here at the show. I think maybe Monday or Tuesday, one of the guys mentioned it to me. This is your first time coming to Diesel Power Challenge.
It is the first time.
That's awesome, man. Well, congratulations. Thanks for being here. I know you guys have been a big part of the show and a new portion of the competition. I'm excited to talk about it. Now, listeners, we did talk to Chris Otani about this.
Yes.
He did a great job going through everything. I thought, hey, well, we have the guy here who's behind it. Let's get Gale on the show. Tell us a little bit about MAD and BAD and why we're digging into it.
Yeah, really, engines thrive on air density. They pump cubic feet per minute. Every revolution of the every revolution of the crankshaft, the engine pumps half of its volume into the cylinders. So if you look at a lot of the engines that are running here today and this week, they're pumping anywhere from about 355 cubic feet per minute through the engine up to close to 500. Guys that turn them faster pump more air. Power is made by the weight of the air they pump.
Okay.
The mass. We look at it as pounds of air per 1,000 cubic feet. So the air here is around 60 pounds per 1,000 cubic feet. Down at sea level, it's more like 72 pounds.
Oh, wow.
There's guys here. One of the guys, which I'll announce later when we do the awards, is multiplying the air density 6.7 times.
Wow.
So if he had no turbos versus his turbo and intercooler system, no turbos, he's making 6.7 times more power than he would be making without turbos.
That's crazy.
Mind-blowing good numbers up here. So you start with ambient air density, you inhale enough of the ambient air and compress it with the turbocharging or supercharging, whatever you're doing. Everybody here is single or twin turboed, compounded. Then you intercool it. So I've been developing engines for 60 years. I'm actually in my 61st year in business.
Congratulations,
so,
by the way.
Thank you. And I've been using density because World War II, and oh, by the way, today is the 6th, Normandy.
Normandy, right.
And those guys are in France.
Yep.
And I'm thinking about them. Because what came out of World War II, the technology, turbocharging, came of age during World War II. A lot of our bombers, a lot of our fighters were turbocharged. Get above the flak as best you can,
Sure.
So all I'm saying is it's all about air density. They're way up high, and they need more pounds of air per cubic foot they pump through the engine. That's what you mix the fuel with to make the power.
Yeah.
You don't read that on a boost gauge. So, we've been doing this density calculation for years, decades. And we develop turbochargers that way. We develop intercoolers that way. Now, I just wanted to make a version I could use, testing on the street, testing on the chassis dyno, testing on the engine dyno. And what we've come up with is what we call the iDash data monster. This little critter goes in a 2-inch gauge hole, and it daylogs up to 100 channels.
Yeah.
And it does it at 20 samples a second if you want to go there. And it will do it for days. It's got writes to a micro SD card. This has all the information, not just to develop turbocharging, intercooling, or the complete engine. This has the information. Right now, I'm trying to kill an L5P. And I'm doing a video series called Killing Duramex. And I'm looking at how well does the cooling system work as I go more and more power? How well does the jacket water and engine oil cooling work? Where am I at with all these other systems? How about the oil pump? Is it adequate?
Right.
Do I have enough water pump? All of these things I don't want to kill the engine because I'm ignorant of all these other things. I want to find the actual physical limit of the engine intelligently.
Right.
So, and I'm hoping it's way the hell up there because I want to make a marine engine out of this L5P. We make L5P engines, L5P based engines, which are at the Duramax engine plant. They're called Banks engines because they have a lot of our parts, which we ship into the plant.
Okay.
And they assemble the Banks long engine, ship it to California, and we put another 230 some parts on it, including the turbocharging and, all the engine management. And we have our own ECU, our own engine control module that supports them. And we've done about 6,500 of those engines now for Oshkosh truck. For the Joint Light Tactical Vehicle, the vehicle that replaces the Humvee.
Yeah, the Jolt. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Good, you're using Jolt. You're using Jolt. I started calling that thing the Jolt because there's no name, and you're using Jolt.
Well, I remember we talked about it right before you guys had started production, so that's actually probably
that's
the
years
last
ago
time,
now.
I know that,
yeah.
and that was the last time that we had a chance to sit down and talk about the project. And back then, it was just getting rolling. The first ones were just coming off of your guys' line,
right,
with the finished product getting ready to ship. So it's amazing to hear that this ramp-up period of you guys getting into that program. How much did Mad and Bad play into your design on that engine, on the Banks L5P?
Hugely. The charge air cooling is provided by a vendor of Oshkosh. It had to meet our standards. We went through all of that. The turbocharger, we manage the turbocharger on the engine with our ECU. It's a Borg Warner. And a pretty fine piece, I'll tell you that. But we had to reconfigure the controller on the turbocharger to speak our CAN bus. Our ECU speaks military CAN bus, marine CAN bus, heavy-duty truck CAN bus. It's all the same.
Right.
Farm tractor CAN bus. That's what we wanted to speak, but that controller didn't recognize it because it's GM local area network, what's called GM LAN. So we had to, on the communication layer of the software in that actuator on the turbo, we had to work with Borg Warner to get our architecture in that layer.
Yeah.
So
do they just open up and say, okay, here's the program, here's the software, like have at it?
Some guys will do that. We sign all kinds of non-disclosure agreements all the time. But some guys won't, I call it pulling your dress up. They won't pull their dress up far enough for us to make any headway whatsoever. So we turn around and if they want to keep things secret, then they do it. We tell them what we want done.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
It varies.
There's a lot of ways to get the project done. So on some of the stuff,
we've explored. Oshkosh. We've been in communication with Oshkosh since 2004.
Oh wow.
Yeah, long time. GM asked us to consider repping the Duramax worldwide. They put them in pickup trucks. We get everything else, and we landed the biggest possible contract, but it took us years.
Yeah. Wow.
So.
Absolutely. Well, hey, congrats on it. You guys are kicking ass with it.
Thank you. I'm proud to do it, and I'm proud that we get California, a bit of California off-road Baja technology is in that suspension. They did it. They call it the TAC-4, and but it's a trophy truck. It's a military trophy truck. It's got 20 inches of suspension travel.
Jesus.
Yeah. It'll go through terrain where a Humvee might do it at 7 or 8 miles an hour and bounce you out of the seat. It'll motor through at 30, 35 miles an hour. It's just radically different than any military vehicle ever made.
That is so cool.
Yeah,
I need a test drive in one. Anybody listening to our podcast out there, any of our military folks, if you can get me set up with a test drive, shoot me an email. Let me know.
There's a hard you're going to play hell finding anybody that'll take you up on that, except I've been told that I'm going to have one pretty soon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, Gale, you might have to give me a test drive in it. I'll ride shotgun. Don't worry.
Yeah, this is. We'll see. We'll see. But of course, yeah.
We'll track you down. Don't worry about it. Hey, okay, so one of the other things I wanted to talk about while we got you here today is that iDash pod and some of the data that we pulled from it. And Chris and I went through some of the results. We talked about some of the highlights and some of the guys who had gone really far and the data looked good and some of the surprises out there. Have you had a chance to look at the data? Did you have some spots
actually
that you were pretty
sat
surprised with it?
Maybe 6 different teams this morning. I sat down with them and reviewed all the data. Some of them have remarkably good setups, but I don't think there was one of them where I didn't point out an opportunity, to make it better. And that's what this instrumentation is all about. The gauge is like $390 or $380, something like that. An internet price. I have replaced $80,000 data loggers. I mean, honest to God, I don't even use them anymore because this thing is so quick and easy to set up. If you pull the data out of it, and it writes to a .csv file.
Yeah.
Every mapping, charting, I mean, everything recognizes .csv.
Right.
Or you can play it back on the gauge. One of the guys actually was telling me, I'm not even going to mapping and charting. I'm playing back the run on the gauge, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. That instant playback, especially
and
when
you
you're
can
in
stop the playback while you're
runs.
doing it. You can stop the playback anywhere you want. And say, what's that? And then you can go a little back. It'll go in chunks,
right?
Like a second at a time. Forward a second, and you find exactly, say, the peak density output of the turbocharging system.
Right.
This is a development tool that we perfected over about 30 years that I decided to make a production version of it and share it out.
That's
awesome.
And
that's what we're doing. We're sharing it out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had a chance to check it out. No, I was pretty impressed with it. And it's something I've seen a few times now, and we've gotten a chance to get our hands on it. We really like them. So it was awesome to be able to see these guys in the pits, like you said, looking back through the charts or looking back through the pods and figuring it out.
And they are.
Here's one of the questions I had. So as we look at it and we move away from looking at just boost, because boost is a part of the equation, right? I mean, that's what you've always said. Is
very little of it.
Right. There's
because boost doesn't even include ambient air pressure.
Okay. So as we move further and further into this number of what's the right number, what kind of changes do you think we'll see in technology? How will this apply to what guys are going to do to their trucks next?
Guys, you can watch the density increase as you spool the turbos. Mm-hmm. You can watch the density gain across the intercooler. And what we're going to do tonight at the awards is actually the top 3 for turbocharging, the top 3 for intercooling, and the top 3 for manifold air density, what we call MAD.
Awesome.
Boost air density is what is added by the turbos and the intercooling. And we call that BAD.
Sure.
Boost air density. Ambient air density is AAD or AD. Well, everybody wants to add. but the question is, how much boost air density can you produce? And guys are finding, I've got an intercooler, and it really didn't perform too well. And we go and we look at the temperature recovery and the pressure drop.
Okay.
Some guys had real cool pressure drop, around 1 pound pressure drop. Some guys had 5 pounds of pressure drop.
Wow.
Yeah. You won't read that on a boost gauge.
Sure.
But it's there. So there's all kinds of stuff you can do that you could never do before.
Yeah.
And the data logging, the whole instrument and the readout and all the things it'll do. And by the way, you can have up to 5 different screens So, and you can put up to 8 readings on each screen, anywhere from 2 to 8.
Oh my God!
So you can just push one of the buttons, and it goes through the screens.
Right.
And so you could have 40 different readings, and play them back on the screens that you've got there. Or, you can have a screen for developing intercooling. You can have a screen for turbocharging. I mean, it's all over the map. The cool thing is, tonight, when I give the award, I'm going to tell the guy what percentage of his power came from the turbocharging.
Okay.
Now, everybody gets a percentage from the ambient air.
Right.
You add with your turbocharging, and you add with your intercooling, and you subtract with your air intake system. And we found a whole bunch of guys who are losing 8% of their density right off because they had hot underhood air being sucked into the first turbo. Yeah.
Okay.
So they had to earn that back just to be even.
Sure, and I think a lot of guys wouldn't consider that. That's not something that I would
I'm going
think
to tell you
of
right
as I
now,
was
after
putting the bill together.
reviewing with these guys, we found 3 or 4 of them that could improve that, and they're all going to do it.
What's a solution for something like that? So let's say I have that.
Cold air, cold ram air. I first did it in 1959. I took the headlight out of a car I was running at Bonneville and put a bell mouth where the headlight was and fed it right to my Rochester fuel injection on my small block Chevy.
Okay, yeah.
And it worked bitchin' because it actually kind of supercharged, kind of made up. The car ran close to 200, so it kind of made up with ram air the density I lost coming from L.A. to Bonneville.
Gotcha.
And the density at Bonneville is very close to what we've been having here in Denver. So I've been running at low density for my entire freaking lifetime, But this event was a lot like going to Bonneville because guys are helping other guys fix their trucks so they can compete again. That happens at Bonneville.
Sure.
Even in the same class.
And that is something that a huge shout out to all the competitors we saw this weekend. Guys breaking and guys just immediately going to wrenching on it. And it was also that they could make the sled pull today.
Yes.
Do you guys see a lot of sled pulls out in California still, or do you have to
up in the
travel
Central Valley? You'll see them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of ag up there, and guys are doing it.
We had some back and forth on the track. So we had the guys from Wisconsin who all they do is sled pull. They hate this track. It's terrible. It's the worst track they've ever seen, which is, honestly, I love these guys, but that's what they tell me at every track I've ever been to with them, right? So they haven't found a good track yet.
Yeah.
But then we do also, we have guys who are more from this area. They don't see a lot of sled pulling to them. It's all dirt. It was one lane. It was a tight lane, so that you couldn't pick a new path.
You couldn't
Everybody
maneuver
ran
around
the same,
much. Yeah,
the same wheels. What'd you think of it? What'd you think of the performance today?
A lot of guys had independent front suspension on their trucks.
Yep. All the Duramaxes. No solid axle swaps for them.
If I was going to sled pull one of those trucks, I'd put a Dana 70 in the front. Honestly, I'd get rid of that. Because
that's popular.
There was a whole lot of wheel gyrations on the front end.
I was pretty scared for Billy Hartzell. He got done. I was like, I think you need to just give it a quick once over.
Yeah, especially if you're going to drive it home. So, not the best track, kind of dry, has a hump in the middle, and then goes downhill. But it's okay. Everybody got dealt the same cards.
And that's what I love about this. I think that could be said about all of diesel powertrain. You can't prepare for it. You don't know what the track's going to look like that year.
Exactly.
You can't say, there's going to be perfect clay and it's going to be this beautiful, exactly what you would get at home, because that's not what any of the event is. There's no part of the event that follows that path. It's new for everyone.
Everybody, no weights. No weights on the nose. There's no weight in the bed.
That's right, man. Yeah, so it is. It's a driver event, and that's what we love to see about it. Hey, I think we are coming up on setup over here where we're recording.
All right.
Gale, I love so much that you took the time to get on the show and talk to our listeners again. Any final thoughts for the guys at home?
Well, I'm putting an awful lot up on Banks Power YouTube. It's not commercial. I'm sharing out all kinds of stuff we're working on. What you can. There's a lot of new. That's my thing. I'm a futurist.
Sure.
So we're always pushing the envelope.
Well, the comparison test, and I'll tell you, we've all been following. We love it. I got guys in the office buying diff covers for their trucks at home. I mean, we've all been following.
There was one on one of the trucks here.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
The first one, he's changed it out from a competitor's diff cover.
Yep.
I think after he got here. So we had a great conversation. So the bottom line, though, is turbocharging is my life. I don't care what fuel you're burning. Diesel really loves turbocharging.
Sure.
And I really love diesel. So we've been doing the diesel thing since 1978. And it involved putting turbos on engines that weren't turbos.
That's right, before the factory.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And you could buy a Banks turbocharged GMC 6.2 1 year ahead of the Dodge Cummins. GMC and Banks had the first turbocharged diesel pickup trucks. You could go to an agency and buy them.
Absolutely.
So I've been at it a while. Yeah. And all I got to say is that, and of course our Banks Power Facebook, we're just putting up all kinds of tech information. If you're into improving what you're doing, that's what we're putting out there.
Absolutely.
Then you can choose intelligently the product you want to buy. So I just want guys to have the chops to make the decision properly. And if the decision is my stuff, wow, that's cool. But I don't do hard sell video puff pieces. It's all facts.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, we love it. We've been following the data. We love to see it. Thank you so much again for being on the show.
All right.
Guys, we'll be following up with another piece right after this, talking a little bit more about the award ceremony, and we'll be giving you some final results just as soon as we can.
The Diesel Performance Podcast is brought to you by Calibrated Power Solutions, home of DuramaxTuner.com. Calibrated Power develops emissions-equipped calibrations for a wide variety of diesel powertrains, including the Duramax, Cummins, PowerStroke, John Deere, Case, New Holland, and many more. For more information and great customer service, check out calibratedpower.com or call 815-568-7920. That's 815-568-7920.
A whole slew of crew come from Ohio every year.
Crew.
Yeah, you like that?
That was slick.